Obsession was a movie that truly terrified me, and not only did it terrify me, but it made me think too. Obsession made me feel a mixture of emotions and opinions for each major character. Each of them wasn't completely bad or good besides debatably one person, and that made the movie a million times more enjoyable and thought-provoking. This video will contain heavy spoilers for Obsession, so if you haven't watched it, save this video for later. With that warning, let's get into my analysis of Obsession. To simplify the formatting of this video, I'll go from some of the latter, less important characters to the two main ones, which are obviously Nikki and Bear. So I'll start off with Ian. Ian is first introduced when Bear is confessing his feelings to a waiter, kind of practicing how he wants to go about confessing them to Nikki. Okay, I'm recording this while editing. That is the most uncomfortable possible way to experiment with telling a crush you like them. I'm sure there was a million other ways where you could have done this less awkwardly, but you chose a stranger. Ian had to have chose that. This dude sucks.
Come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
He is the first of the major characters to know how Bear feels about Nikki. In this scene, he gives Bear horrible advice to call her Freaky Nikki, which he and Bear knew she was sensitive about. Worst case scenario, he's sabotaging him. You're distracting! Worst case scenario, he's sabotaging him. Best case scenario, he just doesn't care. Both can be true. He remarks to Bear that all he has is time, which ties in a bit later when Bear calls Nikki and she says we're running out of time since she's putting in her 2 weeks. Later in the movie, after Bear makes a wish, Ian seems super confused by the sudden switch in their relationship, maybe even jealous. He chalks it up to Nikki relapsing until he looks up her father's situation and sees that he doesn't have cancer at all.
Now, I'm really mad.
Ian, doing his research, obviously has some very strong feelings about the situation. He even goes as far as to not want Nikki around at his party and accuses Bear of taking advantage of her in the supposedly vulnerable state, which Bear immediately denies. By this point, Ian seems like your average indifferent side character until it's revealed by Sarah that he and Nikki have been hooking up on and off for a while. This recontextualizes everything. If we go back to his introduction, the first indicator that he might see Nikki as more than just a friend is when he suggests to call her Freaky Nikki. There could be much more ill intent behind it than we originally thought, knowing she doesn't like being called that. When he seems confused or concerned about Bear and Nikki's relationship, that can now be viewed as jealousy due to the on and off hookups. There's no way there weren't some romantic feelings between them, or at least just Ian. Going back to the dinner call, from everything we learned about his characteristics and behavior, there's a very small chance he researched just for Bear. Maybe because of the relations he had with her, he was also confused and researched due to his own curiosity. Or maybe it was both. But that's the best part about the characters, is the fact that their actions could have multiple motives. Moving to the third-ish act, Bear is telling Ian about the wish, and to Ian's skeptical brain, he doesn't believe him. To go even further, he sarcastically wishes for $1 billion and watches the money fall from the sky as Bear stares at him in disbelief and anger. To us viewers and Bear, it was a huge mistake, but to him, he had no idea, just like how Bear had no idea that the wish would work. Then Nikki has aimbot, and he gets obliterated. One of my favorite parts about this film is how Curry Barker writes each of the characters. Ian, for example, is the perfect example of a more complex and human character.
He represents that collection of side characters who can be a little selfish but still in the right. You don't see that a lot, especially not in the horror genre.
Heck, you don't even see that in main characters a lot either. His character contributes slightly to the main plot and still remains well written and not one-dimensional. Curry Barker knew that Ian wasn't a super relevant character and could have easily written him to be a blank slate with no depth or nuance, but chose not to for the sake of making a movie a story. Ian having a history with Nikki makes his interactions with Bear so enjoyable and interesting because you don't know what his true intentions are. He could go from caring friend to selfish or jealous guy in a heartbeat, and we wouldn't truly know because his actions never spell it out for us. That's what's so great about Obsession. I'll talk about this more later, but Curry Barker knows his audience isn't stupid and treats us like he does. Sarah is first introduced when Bear goes to trivia night in the first act. She doesn't have much to say until the two of them are alone by the bar and Bear tells her his cat died, in which she hugs him. At least to me, it looks like she's hugging him in a more romantic way with her arms above his shoulders. This is relevant because Nikki tells Bear that Sarah has liked him for a while. After this, every expression she makes and action she takes will be viewed in the lens that she likes Bear. The second time we see her is at work with Bear, and this is the first but not the last time she takes a hand in progressing the main story. In this scene, Bear eats his lunch as Sarah teasingly steals a note. She reads the note that says verdict, cat, insinuating that Nikki cooked the cat that Bear is currently eating. This represents another turn in Nikki's drastic behavior. She also drops the fact that she feels as if Nikki is taking advantage of him. Later at a party, they're playing a Jenga game I'm not very familiar with, where it seems like there are words on the blocks. One of them is kiss the person to your left, and surprise, surprise, Nikki is to Bear's left. Not surprisingly, Nikki doesn't take a liking to this and moves Sarah away so that Nikki is now on his left. I wanted to point out how I learned what kind of game it was, and it's like you read or you drink. So like a dare or drink type of thing. And this dude could have just drank, but he chose to read the block. Early in the movie, he says he doesn't like the taste of the alcohol. So there's two reasons he could have done this. One, just to see Nikki's reaction or something. And two, for his own convenience and not tasting the alcohol, I guess. I don't freaking know. But anyways, a few minutes later, Nikki snaps out of it and screams, "It isn't me," while hitting herself with a certain object. Later that same night, Sarah decides to text Bear to meet her at a park as if that's not weird, and when he says no, she just comes to his house. Well, it's not confirmed she comes to his house, but that's just what I assume. Bear, for some reason, chooses to get in her car, and they share the intimate moment of opening a school acceptance letter with each other. I don't know. Before she talks again about how she feels that Nikki is taking advantage of Bear, and she doesn't want him to get hurt. After this, she points out that she was on his left, insinuating she wanted to kiss him at the party. This is a huge character flaw, and that's what makes her interesting. Her actions aren't excusable, but they are understandable. The friend she told about liking a guy soon ends up dating that guy. So from that standpoint, anyone can see why she felt the way she did. Then her face gets smashed. Sarah, to me at least, is one of the least interesting characters in the movie. Nonetheless, she is still interesting. Even more interestingly, she is in some ways an opposite parallel to Ian. They both have a relationship with Nikki and Bear, but it's the opposite, as she's the one with feelings for Bear and a friend to Nikki. Though we don't see her interact with Nikki much, if she's willing to tell her that she likes Bear, they are obviously pretty close. And there's an even more interesting dynamic they basically never explored upon between Sarah and Nikki. Her getting closer to Bear in her last moment shows where they were in her heart, can even show the reasons for doing such were caused by the hurt of Nikki abandoning a seemingly close friend, and that's a lot of subcontext. More than enough for an already great movie. Just writing this made me realize how much more complex and intriguing of a character she is. Bear is first introduced to us confessing his feelings for Nikki, which we learn isn't really Nikki, just a waitress at a diner trying to help him figure out how to do it, along with Ian. There's a very important line where he says, "I feel like I'm coming apart." Interestingly, that aligns with Nikki in a more literal sense because she physically falls apart, and her individually
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
And her individuality disintegrates without him. He allows Ian, in a way, to belittle him and even persuade him to wait for another time. The first hint to his passive nature. Nikki is first introduced in a call with Bear, pleading with him to come to trivia night because they need his mind. She also branches off into another topic of dropping her crystal necklace down the drain, which looks to be symbolism of Nikki losing protection. She also tells Bear that he can talk with her about anything, anytime. In the same phone call, she says they're running out of time since she's putting her in 2 weeks, which also, again, ties into Ian's point of saying all you have is time. Right after this, Bear goes to a metaphysical shop and eventually decides to get a one-wish will of her instead. As we know, this was his biggest mistake. The second time we see her is at trivia night, where she's teasing Bear for his seemingly feminine drink choice of pina colada. Bear's characterization so far has told us he's a very passive person who seems very lonely, making him an easy protagonist to relate with for a lot of people. From everything we've seen on Nikki's side, she's shown to be a very compassionate and understanding friend and person overall. To further my point, she even gives a homeless man $20, showcasing that she's a generous person as well. Later on, while being driven home by Bear, they talk for a bit about various topics. Nikki highlights how she's going to be putting in her 2 weeks to pursue writing more, saying that she doesn't feel loved, and in order to make a good story, she needs to. Bear mistakes her story as a romance, and she immediately shoots it down. Bear then proceeds to ask, what's the difference? This points to the movie with it being a love story and not a romance. It also shows Bear doesn't know the difference, and that was his fatal flaw. Love isn't a romance. Love can come from a mother, a sister, or a friend. Love can even be dangerous. You've seen people kill because they love someone so much. Even kill the person they've loved so much to shield them away from the world or something. Love can cause you to manipulate, hurt. Love can cause you to do good acts along with hateful or hurtful acts. She goes quiet for a bit and tells him he is the only person she can really talk to about these things. Nikki asks Bear how he feels about Sarah, hinting that Sarah likes him, and he says she's a good friend, eliminating any chances that he might like her. Nikki then says that if she likes a guy, no one would know. This could have been viewed as hinting that she likes him or talking to him like a brother. That's all up to interpretation. She eventually gets out of the car, and Bear tries a few things to continue talking to her until he resorts to Ian's bad, horrible advice and says, "Goodnight, Freaky Nikki."
You serious?
Nikki stops in her tracks and walks back to the car, reminding him that she has never liked that nickname. Bear, with immediate regret, apologizes multiple times. She looks at him for a second before asking him if he likes her, prefacing this would be his chance to tell her. He replies by saying they are good friends. She says okay, then good after that while averting her eyes, as to maybe hide some emotion or disappointment from that answer. Bear then mutters to himself in frustration. Bear remembers the One Wish Willow.
I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the fucking world.
Bear stares at the broken sticks before scoffing and throwing them in his bag. Once Bear makes his wish, he sees Nikki stand frozen on her porch. I'm going to highlight this multiple times throughout this video, but the use of shadows and light, or lack thereof, is utilized extremely well in this film. There's been a combination of instances where Nikki is shrouded in darkness, making it harder to decipher her facial expressions or what she might be feeling, giving another level of mysteriousness to her scenes. She then walks down to his car and reminds him that he had something for her. He replies saying he left it at home. There's a silence, and then he says he can bring it tomorrow. This is the particular moment she seems disappointed, almost like she wanted him to invite her home, in which he doesn't. She then proceeds to ask him to come inside and claims that she lost her cat. Confused, Bear repeats what she said back to her, confirming that she understood what she was saying. Nikki corrects herself, this time saying his cat died. By this point, Bear looks behind him at the One Wish Willow and then asks if she's okay. She strangely ignores it and asks if he's okay, almost mirroring Bear's actions in losing her sense of self. She eerily says,
"Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah."
all in the same tone and delivery. This film does a great job of digging at the uncanny aspects of horror. She wakes up for a second, wondering why she's acting so weird, then goes back to asking him to come over, eventually forcing herself into his car. I want to highlight that the moments she snaps out of the wish are the scariest to me. Something about that pure fear and confusion that Indy Navarrete puts into those split seconds resonates with me. Her autonomy and free will gets ripped away from her, and Curry does an amazing job at making that point. Bear says that she's acting very weird, and Nikki immediately has a discouraged reaction, chalking her behavior up to being drunk. She lays her head on the dashboard and says her dad is dying and claims that she shouldn't be alone right now. She has this thing where she cries with her face directed towards the floor, but her body isn't moving at all. It's as if her mouth makes sounds sometimes to emulate emotion, but her body is telling a different story. Another great detail is when she turns her head to look at him, you can't see her face at all. It's a perfect balance of shadow and her hair hiding her face. It makes her much more intimidating and unreadable. The two of them arrive at his house, and as soon as Nikki walks in, she takes a deep breath, stating that it smells like Bear, showing his insecurity, as his first assumption to an unclear statement is that it's negative. She reassures him that her comment was positive and that she enjoys the scent. I want to point out this thing Michael Johnston does, where Bear's resting face is a slight frown, kind of similar to when a kid gets sad. Having watched countless interviews, that isn't Michael's resting face. I just wanted to highlight that, as I think it's a great subtle detail that Michael adds into the character of Bear. Looking deeper into it, it can represent a look of uncertainty, and that's Bear's entire character. His inability to make finite choices is present in his actions and his body language. Being an unsure individual all the time means you're more susceptible to swaying your opinions or views. In this case, it's his morals. Being such a passive person isn't bad until that bleeds into morality territory. If not such a submissive individual, he'd be more capable and willing to stand his ground on what he knows is right and wrong. It seems he's only willing to stand his ground or be more assertive if it's in his own interests. That wouldn't be so bad if the self-interest didn't include continuously taking a human's free will. Again, back to the original format. Stop it, Bob, stop. Skipping forward a bit in the story, Bear and Nikki end up making out on his bed when she suddenly jumps back and falls off the bed screaming. This part of the movie is particularly scary to me because it's so unsettling. The sudden panic and confusion, mixed with the heavy score, is perfect for inducing a feeling of uncomfortableness. The wish quickly takes over as she gets back up at the foot of the bed, and Bear says something very telling. "You kissed me." Now, from a stranger's standpoint, this is a very valid reaction, but with the added context that he avoids accountability throughout the movie, it makes the intentions behind his reaction clear. He shifts blame. Whatever situation he's in, he manages to make sure that it's known that whatever happens isn't his fault. I'm going to break up the original structure of the video a bit to show how Bear truly does avoid all accountability or blame for any issues in his life. It is first shown when he finds his cat Sandy dead on his floor after getting into his grandmother's medication. If you know anything about cats, you know they don't have opposable thumbs, so obviously, curiosity didn't kill Sandy. Bear did. He carelessly left the medication out and did so with the lid open for his cat to get into. The second time this happens is indeed in the scene I was formerly talking about, in which he and Nikki kiss. And as she freaks out, instead of asking if she's okay or reflecting on if he might be preying on her in a hard time, he says, "You kissed me." An immediate shift of blame so that he doesn't have to deal with the repercussions and weight of his own action. Another example is in the 2 times Ian suggests that Bear could be taking advantage of Nikki. Naturally, Bear responds with immediate defensiveness and even throws an insult saying "F you" before defending himself. Moving on to the infamous dinner scene, Nikki asks Bear what he wants to do, as she's never asked. Bear responds saying that he's a private person and it wasn't her fault that she never asked. He adds that she's called him a closed book before. She replies, apparently not remembering what she said. This could be a slip of memory or another sign that Nikki isn't herself. Bear then gets a call from Ian telling him that Nikki's dad doesn't truly have cancer. After nervously making his way back to the table, Nikki gives him her tiger's eye. She describes it as a charm of confidence and, get this, willpower. She gave her willpower to her captor, and you see tears form in her eyes as she says she loves him more than anybody in the entire world. It's almost like the real Nikki is crying as she gives away her protection. Bear then asks if her dad really has cancer, and she first looks confused as she's processing whether to lie or not. Then a sinister smile grows onto her face as she answers no. She continues saying it while slowly getting louder and standing up. The meaning of the no changes mid-sentence as she adds on to it, "Don't do that, I thought we were having a nice date," her eyes welling up with tears. Bear tries to calm her down, and then there's a hard cut to a sex scene, which I would almost always say is unnecessary if not for the dead look in her eyes and a stark contrast to the sounds that are coming out of her mouth. It's as if she isn't even mentally there. It adds a layer to the uncanniness that she's already shown. It also shows that the real Nikki isn't enjoying this, nor is the Wish Nikki. Bear is treating her more like a Barbie than an actual human being, dictating who he wants her to be and when he wants her to be that way. Like I said, I'm going to be breaking up the original structure of the video because I'm kind of running out of time with posting and recording this. I want to highlight the genius of horror in this next scene. Bear wakes up in the middle of the night and notices Nikki isn't there. He looks around for a bit, and then you see her, standing in the corner of the room hidden by darkness. As soon as I notice it, it sends shivers down my spine. Just reading this and remembering the scene is sending shivers down my spine. Like, that scene is terrifying. Bear asks what she's doing, and she whispers, "Watching you sleep," in this quick, emotionless tone. It's really unsettling, actually. She proceeds to slowly step out of the darkness, her body language similar to a natural predator prowling. Bear then asks Nikki to come back to bed, and she almost reverses back into the corner, repeating no 2 times in the same tone. She starts talking about her dreams and how she doesn't like them, and then comes, in my humble opinion, the most unsettling scene in the entire movie. She starts to sort of dry heave cry while her face is dimly lit in the corner. Truly a terrifying sight that kept me awake for multiple nights after the movie. I'm not kidding. The seemingly unnatural crying face and body movements, plus the lighting, shook me and many others in the theater. She tells him to go to sleep, and he chooses to, just to be immediately frightened awake by her screaming, "Why don't you love me?" exiting the room. She comes back, shifting sideways around the room strangely with flowers in front of her face. Bear wakes up in the next morning and notices his hair is shorter, going and asking Nikki if she cut it, which she did. If you look closer in the scene, she's actually reading the book upside down, another nod that this thing may not truly be Nikki. As Bear closes the heavily taped door behind him, Nikki just stands there and waits for him to get home with an exaggerated smile on her face. She stays like this for the whole day, and it seems like her whole person truly devolves when Bear isn't around. And I'm sure that's an excruciating experience for the real Nikki, who not surprisingly is the real victim of the story. Later on, after leaving work to drop Ian off at home, Ian again accuses Bear of taking advantage of Nikki, which he strongly insists is not the case. Ian then invites Bear to his boys' night, etc., etc. Once Bear stops in his driveway, he remembers that there's a helpline on the One Wish Willow box. He calls, and the guy that answers is none other than Curry Barker, the mind behind this masterpiece of a film. Anyways, the guy on the other line asks Bear if he wants to cancel the wish, and Bear's response is he wants to alter it. Bear now knows that his wish has completely changed who Nikki is against her will, and still chooses not to end all this madness now. Another example of Bear making increasingly worse decisions throughout the movie. Bear asks if her love for him is real, and the caller confirms that it is. This could be up to interpretation, but it seems to me like she just has been forced to feel this unimaginable love and gravitation towards him. Not just that she's been possessed, but she truly does feel that insatiable obsession with Bear against her own will, and it's so strong that she can't help but make these irrational and dangerous choices. Moving on, Bear continues talking to the helpline when he suddenly asks, "Do you want to talk to her?" And then Nikki is heard screaming on the other end. Bear immediately hangs up like a coward and walks in to see Nikki standing in that same spot in the exact same pose she was in when he left. She's covered in sweat, vomit, and other bodily fluids, showing that she really hasn't moved on from that spot. Going back to the dinner scene, Nikki says that she doesn't know if she could live without Bear, and in this scene, she truly doesn't. In a way, she stops existing when Bear isn't around. Skipping around to the party scene, where Nikki chooses to read her Jenga block instead of drinking, she reads a story that she's been working on. Hansel, come lie with me like the old woman taught us when we were children, I said. He closed the door and leaned against it. You're not my wife, Gretel, he said. I am more than your wife. I'm your sister. Hansel flinched and reached out for the door handle. I knew he would not leave this place. He would relent and choose to be inside me like he had many nights before. This is an exact parallel to Bear, because no matter what Nikki does, Bear doesn't choose to leave or try to do anything to truly stop or put an end to what he did to her. She continues. If not, I would have filleted his meaty forearm, rolled it like a stick of licorice, and inserted his flesh in between my legs. Hansel is my soul, my cud. Sounds like she's saying chud, but I don't know what cud means, so whatever. Brother, you will be inside me tonight. Bear was like a brother to her. Now all she knows is her love for him. Only love the branch of a willow tree could conjure. A little bit later, while caressing Bear's hair, Nikki's face instantly changes to pure fear as she screams and crawls away from Bear as if she's scared of him. She screams, "It's not me," and does things to her face with a certain object. I'd rather not say what it is because I don't want to get I don't want this video to get taken out or something. Probably won't, but whatever. Bear tries to take her to the ER, but isn't able to get her help due to her refusing to get help. He ends up taking her home and suggests that they sleep in separate locations for the night, while also lecturing her for acting strangely, acting like she wasn't screaming for help while he acted helpless as if he's the victim. He wants her to act like Nikki, and at first she obliges, saying she can be anyone he wants her to, and then when he asks her to be Nikki, showing that he knows he's not currently talking to the real Nikki, she screams saying, I can't be Nikki. Nobody can keep their identity when feeling such love and obsession with another person. She can't be Nikki because Nikki, like any other human being on Earth, is a real human person with complex feelings and emotions. She's a human being with her own personal wants and needs, and Bear ripped that away from her. He truly stole her life. She eventually gets Bear to say he loves her after some hesitation, and she shows some relief before doing an unsettling reverse walk. It scares the life out of Bear and us, and Bear decides again that they sleep separately, and Nikki calmly walks away before we hear some dangerous stool sounds, and she walks back in, saying this.
Well, if I have the bed all to myself tonight, I'll lay there warm. Until slowly I feel cold, like I walked into a freezer. My hands will feel like they're full of sand, like when you lay on them wrong. And that feeling will slowly spread across my entire body. You're still in my heart, but you're slipping. Any thought of pain or regret will slip away like a chemical switch. Even though it's quiet in the room, somehow it gets even quieter. It's not painful. You just let go. Everything you once were. And then there's nothing. It's not darkness. No, sweetie. Darkness is a color. There's just nothing. Or you could say.
Okay, so I have two things to add. Number one, I'm pretty sure her voice gets deeper throughout the speech. You're not gonna be able to hear it because I have the scene sped up, so there's that. Also, look how terrified this dude Bear is. Regardless of how bad of a person Bear is, this dude Michael Johnston did an amazing job. I just want to give her the props to him again. This dude is amazing at acting. So is Indy Navarrete. Everybody on the cast is great. Yeah, back to the more formal way of things, I guess. I don't know. This is another obvious admission from Nikki that she doesn't exist without him. And if you really haven't picked up on it by now, Bear is truly the antagonist. He altered her being so much that she literally dissolves without him. As they are laying together, Sarah texts Bear asking him to meet her in the park. After much insistence, Bear, making sure that Nikki's asleep, gets off to bed to go and meet her when he hears Nikki whisper, "Kill me." Bear almost responds before Nikki interrupts him, asking him not to be too loud because she's sleeping, absolutely signifying that this hasn't been the real Nikki for a while. Bear's not surprisingly selfish reaction is asking what would be so bad, knowing that the real Nikki being with him is a hypothetical, then changes it to what's so bad about being with me. She asks him to kill her, and his thoughts are, is being with me really that bad? Bear in his eyes can do absolutely no wrong. He ignores her pleas for death and goes out to meet Sarah. I'm going to skip dialogue to point out two things. Number one, Sarah is weird for doing this, extremely weird. Whether Nikki was normal or not, if Bear and her are dating, it's suspicious behavior to meet Bear out in the middle of the night. Second of all, Bear almost seemed to be willing to cheat on Nikki after everything he'd done to her. Once Nikki smashes Sarah's head in, she comforts Bear in a passive-aggressive way, repeating that this is his fault and he wished for this. Bear is finally confronted with his own actions, and as he faces it, he only responds to fear and silence. Let me just set the tone. Ian is dead, Sarah is dead, and Nikki is banging on the door. As Bear is confronted more and more by the weight of his own actions, he contemplates finally taking his own life as a last resort. As he processes everything he's caused, he pops his grandma's pills. His thoughts race as he goes to pick up a trash can and gag himself, ready to throw them up. His true last chance at redemption gone, as he can't bring himself to do the one thing that'll free Nikki until you hear a snap. Bear doesn't throw the pills back up. A weight is lifted on his shoulders, and he walks out of the bathroom to see Nikki. They share knowing glances, and at last, their love is equal. They cherish each other for a moment before Bear falls to his knees, succumbing to the pills. Nikki cries and pleads with Bear as he dies in her arms. She slowly brings the gun to her mouth before she snaps back into the real Nikki, wishing Bear off of her, looking around at the carnage he's caused. Her last words: "What did you do?" Bear and Bailey killed his friends, his cat, and Nikki's free will, all while managing to never be at fault. Hi, thanks for watching, and I'm sorry if that last bit of the video felt rushed or unfinished. It was very much rushed. I procrastinated this video a lot, and in the process of editing this, I realized that 60% of this video is just a recap of the movie. A very boring recap, mind you. So I'm sorry about that, and I will improve the formatting of my videos in the future. This was my first ever video essay, so if you see anything that you thought I could have done better, more of, less of, or something new, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll try and integrate it into my next video. Obsession will remain my favorite movie of 2026, so something tops it. Maybe that movie right there. Like I said, thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day, drink your water, and be yourself. Deuces.